you're not real, or you're a meanie. People been treating this nigga Kendrick like he was a Make a Wish Foundation kid, and his dream before he dies is to be better than Drake. And the whole listen, it's like, oh man, we're pulling for you, Kenny. That's kind of how people acted. It was like, well, no, that boy got cancer. No, how dare you kill his dream of being a better rapper than Drake? But anyway, it's like it's this thing in the black community where we have to always overly celebrate, and a part of it is like black women are like really insecure, so like you have to say things like, I love black women, I only date black women. You'll never hear an Indian man say, I only date Indian women, even though it doesn't have to be implied. You know, Indian men mostly date Indian women. I'm not saying they don't date other women at all, but I'm just saying most people date people who look like them, who are the same ethnicity or similar ethnicity. That's normal. It's normal. I always worry about how we're learning to think about things and look at things and getting to where we think that what's not okay and what doesn't work is normal, and what actually works is not normal, or it makes you uncomfortable, or you don't like it, or you think that that's too strict. Like when I heard my homegirl say, y'all real strict in here, because me and my boy said that if she can't cook, that would be an issue. Cooking a meal is an adult activity that you have to do in order to eat. You know how expensive it is. Like I shudder. I had a friend who will dead ass only eat fast food. All he had, like, he don't cook nothing, and I never got into why that was or why he wouldn't cook. But this nigga will not cook nothing. Okay, like if I'm around this nigga, like he dead, like, oh man, it's about that time. I gotta go out and buy me something to eat. And I'm like, you think about how much it costs to eat out. But anyway, but bad decisions. But anyway, so going back to the whole like religion of the black woman, right? So in security, and especially with dark skinned women, it's like with dark skinned people in general, like you have to. It's always this thing of like having to make them feel like, like they're attractive, or you. Well, how can I say? I'm not. I'll put it like this. It's like an unspoken understanding that dark skinned people, they have a bit of a complex. Not all of them, not every single one of them, but a lot of dark people have a complex, and it's always this thing that whenever black women show up in the media, especially if it's been acknowledged by a black person, it can't just be, oh, she looks nice, oh wow, no why she has a great body. It has to be like the most ostentatious, the most, how can I say, overly colorful compliment. Which again, it's nothing really wrong with that if that's how you genuinely feel. But like that's kind of like Doechii's existence, where like, all right, the only like it's like she's tapping into the same audience as a Nicki Minaj, right? And it's like you seem like someone that people like because you're online a lot and you have a real outlandish look. It's like the kind of look that gay people like. You know what I mean? Because I've seen like how like queer guys compliment her and talk about how fine she is. Doechii, I think, has a nice build and whatnot, but Doechii's not an actual like pretty girl. Like Doechii's not pretty without like makeup on. Doechii's not like a, you know what I'm saying? Like I've seen her with no makeup on. She's not really cute. Like you know what I'm saying? Like I think that when she's done up and whatnot, I think she looks nice. I think she has a good face that's good for makeup. And again, I don't think she's ugly nothing like that. I'm just saying like seeing you with no makeup, because like beautiful is when you have no makeup on and you're really attractive, or you're real cute. You know what I'm saying? Or you still have very nice features and whatnot. And everyone just doesn't have that. But that's like this thing. Whereas like when it comes to like, if you, I don't know, if you see anything with like a white artist, they don't have to put all this emphasis on how, oh my god, she's so fine, she's so beautiful. Like I mean, they may compliment that person on their looks, but it's not this thing where you have to give it up when this person's name comes up. But that's kind of like been her existence of like this support that's not really, and kind of like what Axe said, nothing about you seems merited, because her timeline. I don't know why they felt like. I think because they knew, I well, we go. I think a part of why Doechii's rollout was so unnatural was because they needed to pay for like Universal had to pay for all the shit at one time. They figured, all right, well, listen, we paying all this money for Kendrick, and because for the most part, Kendrick, SZA, and Doechii lost mad streams when they did that whole bot purge. No one's talking about that shit. Drake's streams stayed consistent. The rest of them lost mad streams and mad monthly listeners, meaning that a lot of your numbers were inflated. I'm not saying that people don't do this, but the issue was, and Act pointed this out before, was that they weren't subtly bodying your numbers. What they were doing was giving you a lot of really big boost. The idea was to make it to where Kendrick Lamar's name was always a little bit higher than Drake's, or it was where he was beating Drake by just enough, as if they knew, all right, well, I know what numbers Drake's gonna do next week, so we need to get Kendrick Lamar just slightly ahead of him, even if it's just by 500,000 units. It's fucking crazy, right? So taking it a step further, I think that during that time, and this makes sense, because SZA, Kendrick, and Doechii lost streams. The same person who's being paid to buy those streams, they probably figure, all right, well, you know what? We're gonna use this momentum. We're gonna try to use SZA's, because SZA has an authentic fan base. People really fuck with SZA, right? And everything, you saw how strategic that shit was. They put Kendrick had to go on tour with SZA to make sure that when they had the visuals being put out for the show, that there wasn't no seats. Basically, that it was packed the way a stadium should. And also to make sure that he had the look of performing this huge stadium full of people and whatnot. When a lot of people, a lot of people are there for SZA. All right, SZA, because SZA makes music that people really think is good. It's not this thing where like I have to understand it and get into the concept. Now, I may not listen to her anymore because it's just not really for me as like a straight male, who thinks highly of himself. But I can get why people like her songs and like her new stuff and stuff like, you know what I mean. So like I get it. But anyway, so they did a 3-for-1. So if all right, let's go ahead and get Doechii in there. Now I think it would have been better. I still understand why it didn't happen. I'm like SZA and Doechii and Kendrick should have been had joints. Like Kendrick should have gave Doechii about 5 or 6. Like why didn't Doechii get a stimulus package? Why Doechii should have got about 12 verses. First of all, she's supposed to be on the TDE label. Supposed to be family right here. Supposed to be help getting started. He supposed to do that for all the new artists. And like he don't do that shit. For all the new niggas on TDE, they don't be getting a bunch of Kendrick verses. They can't say that. Matter of fact, Absol can't get a Kendrick verse. Schoolboy Q can't get a Kendrick verse, and that's crazy. But anyway, so Adin Ross has been very vocal about his thoughts on Doechii possibly being an industry plant. So Doechii has responded in a song with SZA with some very whack lyrics, and she has a bar that's like son, when the it girl is black. That is the most tired trope, the most tired. It's just tired. This whole you hating on me because I'm black, that gotta stop, yo. That's insecure. Okay, I'm sorry. That's insecurity, and we gotta open our minds up because the thing is that again, most black up until now, people again have really put black women at the center of our culture to the point where black women interact with black men in particular like they kids. Like black women really will talk to you as if they in charge of you, and they have powers and authority over you to the point where you supposed to just listen to them and hear what they got to say. Man, listen. So I heard TK Kirkland say some shit years ago. And what he was saying was he was talking about when black folks complain about somebody being racist, right? And he made a really good point. At the time, I thought it was kind of funny, right? But I mean, listen, I was going through it. I was going through all kind of broke nigga activity. I was on the other side of broke nigga activity. I wasn't like broke as in, yo, I gotta pay my car note and my expensive rent and this and that. And nah, I was on the other side. I was in a dual income situation. I mean, and again, the truest thing I ever heard. Heard Angry Man say this shit yesterday. He said, if a woman's paying half, she's gonna act like and carry it like she's paying for everything, which is why you don't let her pay for but so much. Or you have a situation where you could definitely afford it if she leave, and you let her ass know you can go. Don't ever be afraid of your girl in no way, shape, or form. All right, that never goes well in any relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's an altercation with a stranger. As soon as you start showing fear, it's gonna get worse for you. All right, but let's go ahead and get into Doechii, and we're not afraid to call out Doechii.
Is on a mainstream level. So I'm not saying she don't got no. In Rose comments about the industry plant narrative in her song "Girl Get Up with SZA," it says all that industry plant shit is whack. I see it on the blogs. I see you on the chart. I see you in the chats. You suck every rap nigga dick from the back. But what's the agenda when the it girl is black? So that seems to be at Adin, and clearly she's almost like insinuating Amy racist. Okay, but what's the agenda when the it girl is black? Y'all can't fathom that I worked this hard, and y'all can't fathom that I earned this chart. These niggas is misogynistic. I'll address it on the album. For now, let's sink into the fact that hate don't make you powerful. Okay. Um.
And this is what we're talking about right here. It's like I'm like
Yeah. Now,
what's up, Act?
Doechii. I'm
Doechii.
gonna, I'm gonna I'm gonna be honest with you. I've never in my history of covering the music business had a industry plant admit they were industry plant, because to the artist you wouldn't seem like an industry plant. Now, it's really one of two things, and I don't want to just belittle anything you've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
It is completely a possibility that you have a audience that maybe the likes of me, Joe Budden, and Aiden Ross. And by the way, I don't like how they when things like this happen, they try to lump all of us as like, yo, you guys just don't fuck with this type of stuff. It's almost like it's really it's like they typecast us, right? So maybe there's a world where Doechii is just really popular and she's really beloved in a world that we're just not in tune with. And the lack of being in touch with that type of world, we think that her accolades are not with merit. We think it's given, it's bought, it's paid for. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I think both of them, two things could be true. If you ask me, I do think Doechii he has a audience. Now you have industry plants with no audience. I do think Doechii has a audience. Now, is that audience more inflated? I would say yes. Because when I hear about her, remember the YouTube stat was like, oh, she's the most listened to YouTube. They make it seem like she's bigger than what I believe she is on a mainstream level. So I'm not saying she don't got no audience, but they try to make it seem like she's bigger than what she is. Okay? Now, the second thing, after, okay, do I think she has an audience, is, I'm going to be honest with you, Doechii, what gives off plant vibes is when, a general newcomer like yourself gets given all the accolades at these award shows. Nicki Minaj has been in this goddamn game for 20 years.
Fam, they gave Doechii a fucking Grammy, and I didn't even know who she was for a full year, and she's getting a Grammy. GNX came out at the end of 2024. So it wasn't like an album where like people had like a long time. You gotta think about it, it's a certain time window, right? For like the consideration for what album's gonna get a Grammy. Now it's a known thing that labels pay for Grammys. It's a thing, right? And the Grammys haven't really had much, how can I say, integrity, right? for a long time to where like it really it still is nice to have one. Always sounds good to be a Grammy Award winning artist, but as time goes on, it's just been a change of the guard. Like shit has just changed. We can measure what's lit by we have totally different metrics for like what's lit compared to like yesteryear. You understand?
I don't think they still ain't give her a Grammy. They still ain't want to acknowledge. It took decades for them to acknowledge Nas in the way he should be acknowledged. It took a while. So when a chick that comes in that people are skeptical about her organic grassroots upbringing and maybe how big her audience is because it looks a little sketchy, like she has an audience, but is it that pervasive? And then this person wins all the fucking awards, like sweeps everything. Like she's basically the establishment says to her, "You're the best thing ever.
Facts.
Take all these awards. You're better than everybody else."
Facts.
It's gonna give plant vibes. So I don't want to discourage a young black woman like Doechii who is working. I would hope.
And that's the shit that we gotta move past. Is having to phrase things like, "I don't want to discourage a young black woman." That has to, or even if it's a young black man, that race has nothing to do with what's going on right here. And that's something that has to be addressed. That y'all have to push for not wanting to be addressed that way because when you say it that way, right, it suggests that you need help. That you don't get me wrong. Nothing wrong with someone assisting you when you need help. Nothing wrong with that. But what they're also assisting is that you're not capable of competing. And I really want y'all to really think about what that turns you into, right? When you get the wrong kind of help. I keep saying this. One of the issues, right, and one of the things I always say is that we're suffering from the long-term effects of female leadership. It creates people who cannot effectively do any problem solving. I'm talking about you have an issue and you take steps towards no longer having that issue in the future. I want you to really think about how many people do you know in your personal life actually solve their own problems.
To legitimize in the eyes of many doubters and detractors about her art. So I want to encourage her. But I do want her to understand that it's coming from a place of not just necessarily hate. And maybe she thinks, oh man, it's the niggas that don't fuck with Kendrick that's saying it. No. I think people are genuinely curious and confused how all of a sudden you have came out the gate to a position where you're winning all the accolades. You seem to have this huge audience despite people really knowing your catalog beyond a few songs that to some they might call elevator music because it's not like it's like so pervasive.
That's one more point too. This girl don't have no viral songs. She don't have no viral songs. She don't have records that people know like that. People mostly have just seen the girl online. Like for example, when she got a tiny desk, that's when I started realizing, oh, this is like the new rollout. This is not like an actual authentic thing. This is like a rollout for now. It's a rollout for new artists because anyone could look fly in a small room with a couple of people. If you can't rock a fucking living room, like you understand what that means? For one, format matters, setting matters, right? So it's always dope to hear someone in that format because everyone sounds amazing. Well, if you have a good voice and good records, you can sound amazing in that format. But also, if you can't rock a fucking living room, you know what I'm saying? Who can't rock a living room? So when I saw her on there, I thought her performance was very dope. But I'm not gonna lie, like you don't really have like I think she has well produced songs. She has interesting songs. I think there's talent there and everything. And I think I think the joints were pretty cool. But like it seemed like the beginning of something. I didn't feel like any of the records had like legs, and that mostly be coming from know how to make the kind of records that have setting to them, right? That have a certain energy to them, so the person has a reason to want to hear it. Not only that, having strong song structure and knowing what to say. Like someone that I'll credit with knowing like just knowing like what to say. Like for example, I think one of the most like well written songs ever was like "Nights" by Frank Ocean. Even though it's a bunch of well, it's not necessarily random lyrics. They sound random at first, but again, but the way that he's singing to the beat and what he's saying and whatnot, it's so poetic. Like whether it's gay or not, you know what I'm saying? It's you know what I mean. It's what's not my fingers at, man? Oh man, what?
I snap my fingers.
Uh huh.
You forget that you were ever gay.
I was never gay.
Exactly.
Wait, no, stop.
Yes.
No, stop. You can't. I was never gay.
Okay.
No, I was never gay.
Sure.
One thing that I
So
love.
it's gonna come across as hate, and I'm not gonna lie.
One thing that I love about the experience I had in battle rap was that it taught me how to compete and how to look at. Cause it changed how I look at my experiences, how I look at critique, how I look at just how certain battles go. Like for example, there's certain battles I had where I was like, all right, things didn't go bad, but it didn't really go how I thought it was going to go. But I know that I'm going to learn a lot performance wise and preparation wise and thinking and long term thinking wise. Because in battle rap, I have to be able to perfectly predict, especially as time goes on, perfectly predict what's going to make the room react all at one time and react in a way that's strong, or react in a way that makes you feel like goddamn he's taking the battle. That takes a high level of skill. Everybody can't do that. Everybody not meant to do that. You understand? But with that, right, what it did was it gave me tougher skin and it helped me understand that every everything counts, right? But just because someone doesn't like one thing you created, that's one thing you created. You're a creator. What you do is create. Abundance mindset. And that's a part of the abundance mindset too. Is that I feel like again I want us to keep studying that and expanding on that and what that means and letting that resonate. It doesn't have to be one. There'll always be more. Especially if you make the causes and you plant the seeds, there'll always be more. Opportunity is always out there. I'm always out there looking for the opportunity. Always outside. That's what this whole arc of my story is about. Is doing what I gotta do. A lot of y'all don't especially you men watching right now. A lot of y'all don't realize that you don't have the heart to do what needs to be done. You don't even got the will to really solve your problems. You want to talk about the problem. You want to acknowledge the problem. You don't actually want to fix anything. And guess what? You get it from your mom. Anyway, speaking of you niggas being soft, and that's another thing too. Doechii's whole response, people calling her industry plant, it speaks to again, as a society, we just soft, meaning that we don't we can't tolerate nothing, we can't deal with no hardship. Our response to everything is leave me alone. Why are you bothering me type shit. All right. So let's go ahead and get into these Somalis, man. So let's get into the first probably most important video. So Mike Shirley, who was a YouTuber, he just blew the lid off of, I think Angry Man called it what might be the biggest heist of all time. So across over in the Midwest, apparently Somalian immigrants, first of all, they have created a large community over there. I think it's Minneapolis. Created a large community, pretty much a community stronghold, where what they've been doing is creating, not just creating daycare centers, but getting certified to care for a certain amount of kids and getting paid in subsidy wages. So let me explain to you guys how this stuff actually works, because a lot of people they never work with the government at all, and a lot of people don't really understand how any of these programs work. They don't understand how subsidy programs work in general. So I'm always very frustrated when I'm online. I'm seeing niggas just this fucking butcher how these things actually